answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.
Thank you, my friends. The sun may have set over our city this evening, but as Eugene Debs once said, I can see the dawn of a better day for humanity. For as long as we can remember, the working people of New York have been told by the wealthy and the well-connected that power does not belong in their hands. Fingers bruised from lifting boxes on the warehouse floor, palms calloused from delivery bike handlebars, knuckles scarred with kitchen burns. These are not hands that have been allowed to hold power. And yet, over the last 12 months, you have dared to reach for something greater. Tonight, against all odds, we have grasped it.
Zohran Mamdani and his acceptance speech last night in New York City. And every job he just listed, delivering food on a bicycle or doing things with your hands, he has never done a single job on his own. He worked for his mama one time, but that's it, and then became a councilman and has now been lifted to the top of the lead of the nation's largest city. Listen to what I'm going to say here. Listen very carefully. Are you listening? All right. New York City elected a mommy when they need a daddy that's going to come in and whoop some tail and get things back in order. Mommy's going to continue to give out all the gift bags and the ice cream and the cake and everything else. That's what they got. They're not going to get someone come in and really clean up the crime and make the city safer again and more inviting. They got a mommy that's going to let the kids run wild. They elected a mommy, not a daddy. We got a lot to cover today, as you would imagine. First hour, Larry Connors, USA, November 5, 2025. I will point out it's day 36 of the shutdown. We will be dealing with that a little bit later. And, of course, there were other elections that were important last night for Republicans and Democrats. California approved Proposition 50. That's why Nancy Pelosi is saying she still wanted to be in the running right now to help push that over the line. That might add 5 Democrat House seats. And Jay Jones elected Attorney General, despite the guy that said, one of my political opponents, I'd like to put 2 bullets in his head and kill his children and have them die in their mother's laps. This is the kind of the left that they have endorsed and now brought inside, in addition to mommy. And Bernie Sanders is saying, we need to take, as a party, Democrats. He's not Democrat. He's independent, but he's putting himself in that position. Democrats need to take Zohran's message and spread it all over the nation. It would be like fertilizer, and it would smell like it. But there would be stuff that would grow that we don't want in this nation. In our next hour, who did vote for Mamdani? We're going to have a demographic breakdown, both minority race, male, female. I've got an expert coming on board to break that down for you. And later this hour, John LaBute, former New York congressman, lives in Long Island. Of course, that's a New York City area, but whether or not he was in an area that got to vote for New York City mayor, I'm not sure he did, but we'll come to that later. But we'll get his take on the mommy's victory. And a caller left a message on our voicemail system chastising me for some remarks I said yesterday regarding Muslims. You might agree or you might not. That'll be coming up later. And plus, our new feature, The Story Behind the Story. Today, we're going to do something a little softer, more personal. The story of a young boy who became a cowboy and then a bull rider. That's right, that would be me. Maybe that's why I'm kind of knocked around in the head, been kicked a few times. That'll be our story behind the story coming up later. But right now, Mondani is, of course, the New York City mayor, and he said we really had destroyed a dynasty.
The future is in our hands. My friends, we have toppled a political dynasty. I wish Andrew Cuomo only the best in private life. But let tonight be the final time I utter his name. As we turn the page on a politics that abandons the many and answers only to the few. New York, tonight you have delivered a mandate for change.
Yeah, it is a mandate for change. And yeah, they did throw Andrew Cuomo out with the dishwater and everything else. We're going to break this down in more detail because, as you know, with Larry Connors USA, you always are going to get news, analysis, opinion, and education. You're going to know more by the time we finish this hour than you do right now. And reminding you, while we're on the air right now, you can watch the program. We're streaming video. You go to NewsTalkSTL.com. You go to Larry Connors USA, Facebook, News Talk STL Rumble, Larry Connors Rumble. You'll find us and you can watch the program. If you miss anything, they go up later as a podcast. And today's program, if you miss any part of it, you're going to want to pull up a podcast from whatever source you want. Larry Connors USA. You search there and you're going to find it. Now, before the vote was tallied last night, although everything was written on the wall before the polling closed, Ron DeSantis was talking about Mondani and what was going to happen next.
I mean, this is a guy who does embrace Marxist economics. He claims he's going to lower everyone's costs by having the government run grocery stores. And the only people that would think that would work are people who have never studied a lick of history. He's also somebody that after 9/11, he said how bad it was that his aunt was on a subway and got dirty looks. He never expressed the sympathy in that regard that for all the people that got murdered. He's also embraced George Soros style soft on crime policies. He hates the NYPD if you look at his history. He is not going to stand up for law enforcement. And what I found on all this, Sean, is yes, his tax policy is going to be crazy, anti-business, all that. But the number one thing that moves people to want to flee these jurisdictions is the collapse of public safety. And I think he's going to make the de Blasio reign look like the golden age.
Yeah, that's very possible. I've got a piece I'm going to share with you later. It's an opinion piece written by Lee Harley Carter for Fox News and saying why Mondani won. One summation statement, and that is he captured something every politician should be listening to right now, a deep frustration the system doesn't feel fair anymore. Well, we've all felt that. But my God, going off the cliff is not the right idea. But Mondani will be taking the oath.
On January 1st, I will be sworn in as the mayor of New York City. And that is because of you. So before I say anything else, I must say this. Thank you. Thank you to the next generation of New Yorkers who refuse to accept that the promise of a better future was a relic of the past. You showed that when politics speaks to you without condescension, we can usher in a new era of leadership. We will fight for you because we are you.
Yeah, but then again, I'm not sure you are. And I don't really think you are the typical New Yorker. 6 months from now will be a gauge that I will hold against where we stand right now in New York City. If Mondani serves the entire 4 years, my God, what could happen to that city? It will be the great escape from New York City. One listener called yesterday and left a voicemail admonishing me for some remarks I made yesterday. Now, I want you to hear the full message. They did not leave a name, but I want you to listen to the message. And do you agree or disagree?
Yeah, this message is for Larry Connors. Larry, I overheard you say a couple different times that there's some good Muslims out there. Well, no, there's not. I lived in Israel for 2 years, and it is any Israeli soldier over there will tell you, or Israeli resident will tell you, the only good Muslim's a dead Muslim. The Muslims have love in their eyes and hate in their hearts. That's every Israeli knows this. And now we're seeing this nutcase run in New York. They're all communists, the majority of them. They hate America with a passion. They're here to take over. They have babies like maggots. And eventually they're going to make New York their home base. Then they're going to bring in Sharia law. They're going to have Sharia courts. They spread like the plague or like a bad case of mold. They're going to take this country over. And the stupid white people in America, and the Christians in America, they get what they deserve. This is I can't believe how stupid we are for letting these Muslims into the country. Give them the right to work. Give them a free education. Then we let them run for political office. I mean, this is nuts. So, like I said, America's pretty much done, and you can see it coming. And it's really, really sad because the stupid white man in America, or it's got to be like the dumbest people that ever walked the face of the earth.
Now, the man is entitled to his opinion, and I don't totally disagree with it. I don't totally agree with it. What about you? This came out of a remark I made that, yes, not all Muslims are bent on destroying America and other people of other religions. He says they are. He's entitled to his opinion. There are 2 billion Muslims across the face of the earth. There are 2.6 billion listing themselves as Christians. Muslims are occupying 53 nations, mostly in the Mideast, Asia, Central, and Southeast, also Africa, North and West Africa. And in fact, there is only one place where you do not find a Muslim resident. Only one place, one country. And yes, it stands as a country. It's its own state. Vatican City. That's the only place where you do not find one. But yes, I have Muslims I know as friends, and they do not care for Sharia law, much less wanting to kill everyone that disagrees with their religion. I will also point out to you, I know some Christians, and I'm a Christian, and I'm a sinner, and I'm guilty of many sins, but I put all my faith in Jesus Christ saving me. But I do know some Christians who would express that same thought, and yet they hate other people of color. I mean, they hate them. They think they should stay in their own place. Islam is the religion and the way of life. A Muslim is a follower of that faith. And Islam refers to the entire religious system. The Quran with its beliefs and practices. Islam means submission to the will of God. Christian means submission to Christ. Core tenets for the Islam religion, the oneness of God, Allah. prophets, the Quran. Now, Muslim is a person, again, who follows the religion of Islam. And Muslims strive to obey and please Allah in all aspects of their life, as we should as Christians. Although I often fall short. I'll be the first to admit I fall short. But I'm looking through some of this stuff and sharing with you. As I mentioned how many Muslims are across the world, they're not all in the Mideast, as you heard, and they're also in Africa, but most Muslim nations do not follow Sharia law. They do not follow it at all, or they follow it in various ways. They do not have strict adherence, as they do as in Iran, Afghanistan, Saudi Arabia. Many have a hybrid system. They use Sharia law to inform or complement secular laws. In a large number of them, Sharia law influences specific areas of law, most commonly family law. Egypt and Jordan. Sharia is a primary source for law, but its application largely limited to family and personal status matters. Indonesia, Sharia law applied selectively in certain regions, governing criminal matters. We do not want Sharia courts in our nation. Now, they're already doing it in, obviously, some states like Minnesota, where they're putting in Sharia courts. But how much are going to be beholden to our Constitution? That'll be a battle yet to be waged. But I can't stress enough, and we'll spend more time on this in the next hour. I can't stress enough, just because someone is a Muslim, they're not your enemy. Now, they may consider if you're not a Muslim, you are the enemy because you don't follow their law. As I've always said, not every Muslim is a jihadist wanting to destroy everyone of other faith. Every jihadist is a Muslim. You really need to keep that distinction in mind. Just not like every Christian is a law-abiding citizen that has love for everyone, at least to the best they can. Many don't. We'll get into that in more detail as we move through the next 2 hours. Next hour, a former FBI agent on his view on Muslims. And coming up next, John LeBoot from New York. Lock and load, ready on the right.
You are listening to Larry Connors, USA.
In all these years that Wellington Environmental has been my sponsor, I've never mentioned their duct cleaning services. Allergy season is here, and Wellington crews clean air ducts daily in homes and commercial buildings, also cleaning air handling units and diffusers in commercial facilities. Why? Well, because people will see black dirt and mold on the vents, or they are actually suffering from allergies. Don't be fooled by low-cost duct cleaning providers saying they charge only per vent, because once they get on site, the price will skyrocket. Wellington does not do this, never has. Wellington will give you an estimate, and you say Larry Connors, and immediately you get a 20% discount. Call Cindy, 314-644-4930, 314-644-4930. Make your home and business better, safer with Wellington. Be well with Wellington. Back pain? Follow me to Esquire Sports Medicine, where they've got your back. Esquire is the oldest sports medicine clinic in St. Louis. Dr. Draghi and his team of chiropractors can get you back to work, back to life without the pain. New patients usually scheduled within 24 hours. 314-644-0885. 644-0885. EsquireSportsMedicine.com. Another day must be another roofer in town. John Beal and I were talking. He said, every time you turn around, there's a new roofing company. Many of them have no idea what they're doing, and the statistics show that many will be out of business within 2 to 5 years. Who are you going to call to help you then? You need to remember only one name, John Beal. John Beal Roofing. You have a problem, he can take care of it. And we'll be here for you. John Beal Roofing. Call 1-800-NEW-ROOF. 1-800-NEW-ROOF. The offer. St. Louis cannot stop talking about being held over due to popular demand. Right now, renewal by Anderson. Buy any window or door. Get the next one 50% off. Plus, you could qualify for 0 interest, no payments for 18 months. Renewal by Anderson is the full-service window and door replacement division of Anderson. You've trusted that name for more than 122 years. And our exclusive FiberX frames, 200% stronger than vinyl. Anderson products are also proven to increase your home value by at least 15%. Don't miss out. Schedule your complimentary consultation today at rbastl.com or call 877-WINDOWS, 877-WINDOWS. Renewal by Anderson, award-winning quality, stronger windows, smarter investment.
This is News Talk STL. This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.
Well, I had booked him last week, actually, and I let him know, look, I'm going to want to talk to you the day after the New York City mayoral election. John LeBoutier, former New York congressman, author of the book Harvard Hates America. He is a Reaganite, an anti-Trumper. And at this point, John, I'm not going to ask if you voted for Mondani. I'm going to ask how many times did you vote for him?
Well, I'm not in New York City.
I know. I knew you were going to get. I knew you were going to. I knew you were going to use that excuse. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, I'm a resident of Nassau County.
Right.
However, when I was in Congress, my district was half in Nassau County, which is not New York City,
right,
and half in Queens, which actually 52% of my district was in Queens, which is one of New York's 5 boroughs. So I was in effect a New York City Republican congressman, and that area where I represented is still votes Republican and voted for Curtis Sliwa yesterday. But Mondani, I knew he was going to win. When he won the primary, he was going to win. Mm-hmm. And I saw the breakdown, Larry, today of, get this, voters 30 and younger, 30 and under, 79% of them voted for Mondani. I mean, I've never heard a number like that. 79%, that's 8 out of 10 people voted for him in that young age group. And why is that? Because those young people can't buy a house, hardly can make rent. Life is difficult financially in a big city like New York and everywhere else in the country, but especially in big metropolitan areas. And so they sell themselves out to this guy who promises them, don't worry, we're going to have city-run cheap grocery stores, free buses, rent freezes, all this stuff, most of which he cannot do. He does not have the power to do most of the things he has talked about. They're going to find that out next year.
John, I began this hour, and I'm going to repeat it again for you since you probably were not able to hear at that point. The New York City elected a mommy when they needed a daddy to get on there and whip some butt and get the city back in line.
Yeah, that's a good line. I mean, I don't know how to get the city back in line. I think when Rudy Giuliani was mayor, he shaped up the crime and dirt of New York City, right? And then Bloomberg got in, running, by the way, as a Republican, even though he's not.
Right.
And he did a great job on the finances of New York City.
And then here came de Blasio.
Once New York City, well, hold on. So once New York City was in good shape, financially and crime-wise, what do the voters do? they elect de Blasio, another lefty nutbag who screws the whole thing up all over again. And here we go, and so they're going to have to, the voters in New York City are going to have maybe a bad time with this guy for 4 years before they do something and elect a conservative Democrat or a Republican is what they need here.
Do you not think even in 6 months' time they're going to realize we made a mistake?
Yeah.
Or do they actually believe we'll still get all of this? We just need to last it out.
I don't know. I mean, first thing he's got to decide, one of the first things, is whether to keep the current police commissioner, who is very, very popular, Jessica Tisch, and has done a fantastic job. If he keeps her, that's a signal that he's not going, none of this nonsense about defunding the police or all that, which he has said he's no longer in favor of that, but actions will tell us. That's the first action, right? Then, if he tries to raise taxes on millionaires, which he's talked about, he doesn't raise the taxes. It has to be Albany. The state government raises taxes. And I don't know if they'll do it or not. We'll see.
I do understand
he doesn't run the buses. He doesn't run the buses in the subways. That's run by the Metropolitan Transportation Authority, which is run by the governor. So his power is a little less than people realize.
Well, he sold them cake and ice cream and candles yet to come in packages yet to be unwrapped. But I agree, there's a lot he cannot deliver. So the appeal to these people was just gimme. Yeah, freebie.
Yeah. And, And that's another thing that went on. It's another thing, Larry, that went on yesterday, not just in New York, but around the country. But you can see it here is anti-Trump. This thing was a rejection of Donald Trump. And the most opposite of Trump in America is Zoran Mamdani, a Muslim, now 34-year-old radical lefty who's loved by Bernie Sanders and AOC. And he ran up the score because in New York City, they hate Donald Trump. Now, in New Jersey and Virginia, they hate him. Trump played right into their hands.
Trump ended up endorsing Cuomo, but even if Sliwa had stepped out, there still would have only been about 48%, and Mamdani still had 50+%.
Right. But, I think, and I thought this all along, Cuomo has so much baggage, and Curtis, as much as I love Curtis Sliwa, is not a serious candidate. Had there been, let's just say this, let's say you could clone Mike Bloomberg at age 60, and you'd had him running as the only opponent, as an independent, against Mamdani. That guy would win easily. A businessman who makes sense, is not a socialist, not an anti-Semite. That guy could have won. But they didn't have that guy. They had very flawed, old, been around the track a million times Cuomo, and that he was not going to ever beat Mamdani. Couldn't beat him in the primary, couldn't beat him in the general.
And looking beyond New York City, your remarks about Trump acknowledged we had a bad night all around. I mean, every vote they wanted in these states, they lost. But being it was an off year, does that really give you a clear understanding how many folks bothered to go vote anyway in some of these cases, and some were already deep blue to begin with?
Well, you take New Jersey. Now, New Jersey was, when I was growing up, was a swing state. It went blue, and lately it's sort of come back a little bit to being a little swingy, little purple. And Trump did pretty well against Kamala. He only lost by 6 points last year there. And there was some hope that the Republican, who proclaimed himself 100% MAGA, said Trump is great. That guy, he got smoked yesterday. He got blown out. The Democrat won bigger in New Jersey than the Democrat in Virginia. And they both won by double digits.
So explain to me.
That's a rejection. Yeah.
So explain to me how some of the Democrats, on some of the stuff they'd said and they were running on, such as Jay Jones for Attorney General of Virginia, can talk about killing his opponent, putting 2 bullets in his head and killing his children and dumping them into the lap of their mother, somebody like that can say, that was something I said I shouldn't have said, my bad. They continue to preach this hate, and I know there's those on the right that do the same thing, but why does this appeal, and who are they reaching to appeal on this stuff?
Well, I that guy should never be on the ballot, but he
shouldn't
was.
be Attorney General.
He was. Right, so he was nominated before the public knew about those texts from years ago. Many people said he ought to get out of the race. He didn't. He did win yesterday by a pretty healthy margin.
And it's not just they wouldn't get out, John. It's the people who were endorsing him still. They wouldn't withdraw their endorsements.
Right. And the thing is, though, everywhere, Georgia, Maine, Pennsylvania, the 3 Supreme Court justices, it was a big day for Democrats yesterday. And why is that? Okay, number one, everywhere, still, this inflation and cost of living is the underlying rot in the political system that took down Biden and Harris. Trump said, I'll get it fixed on day one. He hasn't. It's now a year. We're a year in. Hasn't got it fixed. It took out Republicans yesterday. That was number one. Then there's the visuals. Why are we tearing down the White House? Why are we doing that at all? And why are we doing it?
We're not tearing down the White House. He's building a ballroom, which he offered to do for Obama and pay for it out of his own pocket.
Yeah, well, but Obama didn't tear down the East Wing. And I'm just talking politics.
Well, I agree.
Image of the image of bulldozers and ball things crushing this place right before an election. It looks terrible. All of it is ham-handed politically. The president shouldn't be talking about a ballroom. He should be talking about your living room and having you make more money and have prices go down. And he's not talking about it. I will not disagree with you, but I think he can do both. John, I knew this was going to be a great discussion, as always, with you. I am going to want you back a little sooner than we'd normally schedule you because there are going to be a lot of things still breaking apart as we move forward. But thank you for your time today, sir. Thank you very much, Larry. Let's do it ASAP.
Yes, sir. God bless, sir. John is right on target on a lot of those remarks, and I don't agree with all of them, but he is correct. But again, Trump is not tearing down the White House. He's knocked out the East Wing. That bothers me because I have been in the East Wing. My history is wiped out. Well, tough luck, Larry. When we talked about somebody like Bloomberg coming in, when he talked about the age, 60, I qualified, but the rest of it I couldn't qualify. Coming up, our new feature, The Story Behind the Story.
You can connect with Larry on Twitter at Larry Connors USA.
Tom Shaw Realtors has been helping sell, buy, lease property all over Missouri for almost 100 years. Call him, 636-532-1922, or visit shawrealtors.com. You want the best place to watch baseball or any sport and be able to enjoy premium cigars and whiskeys? Lit Cigar Lounge. Lit has so many events each month, you need to constantly check the Lit Cigar Lounge Facebook. You don't want to miss anything. Plus, you can order food from Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta, delivered within minutes right to your table. By the way, we're in the season for great patio dining. Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta has your table waiting. Listen up. The offer St. Louis can't stop talking about being held over by popular demand. Right now, Renewal by Anderson. Buy any window or door, get the next one 50% off. Plus, you might get 0 interest, no payments for 18 months. This is Renewal by Anderson, the full-service window and door replacement division of Anderson. That's a name you've trusted more than 122 years. Our exclusive FiberX frames, 200% stronger than vinyl. And remember, Anderson products increase your home's value by at least 15%. So make sure you take advantage of the offer while it's still being held over. Schedule your complimentary consultation at rbastl.com. 877-WINDOWS. 877-WINDOWS. Renewal by Anderson. This is award-winning quality, stronger windows, smarter investment. Back pain? Follow me to Esquire Sports Medicine, where they've got your back. Esquire is the oldest sports medicine clinic in St. Louis. Dr. Draghi and his team of chiropractors can get you back to work, back to life without the pain. New patients usually scheduled within 24 hours. 314-644-0885. 644-0885. EsquireSportsMedicine.com.
This is News Talk STL. This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA. Now, Larry Connors with the story behind the story.
This is a new feature we've started for this hour, Monday through Friday. You know, we're here for you from 6 to 8 p.m. And I got to thinking the last segment of the first hour, I think we're going to make it more of a story behind the story. Understanding some stories I have covered and some of the background behind it you were not aware of. And it may be stories I actually covered, I was part of, or someone else did. And it may not even be a news story I was involved in whatsoever, but it makes a very interesting story behind the story. And some do involve just my personal reflections on life and things that happen. It's my program. I can do what I want, right? So the story behind the story today. First of all, I truly wish, and maybe you had the same thought, every young child should have a chance to spend at least a few months on a farm or a ranch. They would learn so much, and yeah, some of them would realize that no, chocolate milk does not come from black cows. They would actually learn that you have to go out and harvest those eggs. The chickens don't drop them into the little containers you get at the store. And if you go out there and the hen is sitting on that, you've got to get her off. You don't take all the eggs. You leave maybe one or two, but you got to get her off enough to grab it. And if you're a young kid trying to reach in there, they're pecking away at you like crazy. It's kind of frightening. It was for me. But I still had to go do it because my grandma would tell me, go out there and get me some eggs, boy. Yes, ma'am. And that's the other thing. You respond, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, not yep or nope. And same thing with yes, sir, no, sir. I think we would all be better if a lot of kids, especially those in the deep urban areas, had a chance to spend time on a farm or a ranch, getting to know how it operates, how things grow, how much work goes into our land and our dealing with livestock. May not be something for everyone, but at least have that experience. It's an experience no one can take away from you. And I had a grandfather who was on my dad's side, and he had what we called a farm, but it wasn't really a farm. He did not plant nor cultivate any crops. The only crops we had was what Grandma put inside some chicken fencing to grow tomatoes, things like that, and cucumbers, which she would gather up, and I'd be out there having to help her, gathering them up, and then she would can them so we would have them later in the season. But Granddad's job was overseeing property and cattle, livestock, but mostly cattle, by a man in town that owned the cotton gin. If you own the cotton gin in a town, that's pretty big. You are, quote, in high cotton. Well, every summer we would go to visit my dad's grandparents, and would spend other summers visiting my mother's parents, I should say. And I learned a lot there because Pawpaw and Mamaw, they were more city, but at the same time they had a place on a lake. And Pawpaw taught me how to run a trot line and catch catfish and deal with blood bait. Ooh, nasty stuff if you've ever been around blood bait. Stink like you know what. You get any of it on your hand, it's going to be with you the rest of the day. I don't care how many times you try to wash it off. But at the farm, as we would call it, with Granddad, we would go from West Texas all the way to East Texas. We're talking about Crockett, Livingston, Tyler area, the great timbers of East Texas. And he had horses. And he would use those, and he would ride and have sometimes someone ride with him to help round up the cattle. Well, when I got old enough, I would say around 12, I really wanted to stay all summer with them. And I wanted to learn to be a cowboy, learning to rope, ride a horse. Well, I already knew how to ride, but I didn't know enough to really ride that well. I was probably a lot more trouble than I was worth in the beginning. I will admit that. But his patience made me better, and I got to be a pretty good roper. He shared that slice of his life with me that has stuck with me all these years and the things I learned. But there were some things I apparently didn't get very clear in my head, and some other things that became stupid and because of what I did, not because of Granddad. Granddad was the kind to let me sit aside and just figure out my own way. Now, he might tell me I wouldn't do that, and I would take it as permission. Not a good idea. But as I stayed 2-3 summers in a row, I became a pretty good cowboy. We were roping cattle, yanking them out of the thickets of East Texas, pulling them out, checking them for worms, spraying them down. We had to do that as well at that point. I remember in particular one time riding down into a ravine, really kind of covered over with trees and ivy and everything else, and my horse started getting spooked halfway down the slope. Then I realized the water was moving in all kinds of directions. There's a nest of moccasins in there, water moccasins. That horse was going to get out of that creek, and I was not going to be left behind. I grabbed the horn of the saddle, and I held on with all my might. Do not fall off. Got out, and I was fine. And there was the one year that I showed up, and Granddad had bought me a brand new rope. He said, son, I got you a new rope. Well, a new rope is kind of stiff tight. You got to work it down and get it to work a little bit better, but it was fun. And I'm roping sawhorses for a while till I get really good with it. And he puts me on a horse and said, she's going to shy when you try to rope. Well, by shy to me meant that if I'm leaning over her right head and I'm reaching out to throw the rope, she's going to turn a little bit. I'm ready for that. But I'm sitting high in the saddle, in the stirrups, I should say, standing up, leaning my head right next to hers and throwing that rope at a calf, and I'm going to do it, and I throw a perfect loop, and she doesn't shy. She stops. I go right over her head and land in the very loop that I just threw. It hadn't been snapped up because she didn't back up, and it was not connected to anything. I landed in the middle of the rope I had just thrown. And Granddad came over and said, boy, you just roped yourself. That's so funny. I didn't think it's funny. I was very embarrassed. He could not wait to get home and share that story. And every weekend, we would go to some nearby country fair. And they would often have a rodeo with it. Now, at that age, I was allowed to rope goats. I'd already been roping cattle, pulling them out of the thickets of East Texas. I'm not interested in roping a goat. And I could do barrel racing. But the girls also were barrel racing, and I was probably the long boy that was out there racing against the girls, and I would lose. They were good, and they had horses that were trained well for that. I got an old cow horse trying to get up and around those barrels quick enough without knocking them over. But there was one thing I thought I do want to do. And the summer came that I told Granddad, said, Granddad, I signed up to bull ride this year. He said, you can't do that, boy. You're not old enough. You got to be 16. And I said, Granddad, they said I could, and I just had a birthday. He said, I know you had a birthday, and you just turned 14. But at that time, nobody was checking IDs. I didn't have one to show anyway. I signed up, sure. Paid a little fee. I'd saved up money for that. I get to ride. Now, a bull ride is 8 seconds. It is the longest 8 seconds in your life. And at that time, you were being timed with someone with a stopwatch. It was no going through a barrier or a wire or anything that would set off a timer automatically. When that gate opened up, the timer started, and I'm telling you, you might only get 2 steps outside before you're off that bull. My bigger concern was falling down in the chute with the bull. I wanted to make sure that didn't happen. And I know that I had more 8-second rides than I got credit for. I know I did. The guy with the stop clock must have been looking away or chewing tobacco or something. Did I ever get hurt, you say? Can you not tell the way I am now that my head must be messed up? Actually, I never did. Thank God. And the other thing, my mom, to my knowledge, never knew it because Granddad had said, do not tell your mama. Well, I know Dad knew. And I know that Dad knew because one year, and I've still got kind of a clove hoof mark on the inside left ankle, I got stepped on pretty good by the bull. It split the seam of the boot right down from the top to the soles. I needed a new pair of boots. Granddad didn't have that kind of money, really. I don't know where Dad came up with it, but he said, I had to call him and said, he said, I'll send it to Granddad, but when you get back, you're going to work it off. You're going to earn it back. Yes, sir. That takes me back to that yes, sir, no, sir. I taught my kids at a young age. I don't care if you're 10 or 12 years old. You start answering your teachers or your adults around you, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, yes, sir, no, sir. You or your esteem will grow rapidly in their eyes. But I told my dad, yes, sir, I'll work it off. So we got a new pair of boots. So I'm out riding again. So I didn't ever really get hurt. There were a couple times a hoof would go right past my nose, throwing dirt into my face. But by grace of God, I wasn't really hurt, except for that one time I got stepped on, and I limped around for a little bit, but I was not going to act like I was really hurt. But one thing about Granddad I never understood. He was a guy who could go out, rope cattle. I've seen him, dealing with them in all kinds of situations. And he was upset with me in the beginning about I was going to be bull riding, but he decided, well, I guess you're just going to learn your lesson the hard way. I did it because I thought, well, the girls will like it. I mean, if the girls like it, look at me, I'm a bull rider. Now, these bulls they're Brahma bulls, but they're not what the PBR circuit has now. But they were a Brahma bull, and they did not want you on their back, period. They didn't know they were not on the PBR circuit. They wanted you off. That was it. So he let me learn that the hard way. But then he also taught me something else that has lasted with me for many, many years, and I still enjoy sharing that as the story behind the story continues.
You are listening to Larry Connors, USA.
So I hear an out-of-towner asking someone, where's the best place to eat? Before they could respond, I said, Cafe Napoli. Where? Well, I said, Cafe Napoli in Clayton, Napoli 2 in Town and Country, Napoli 3 in St. Charles, right next door to Napoli C, and then you got Napoli Kirkwood, plus you got Napoli Pizza and Pasta in Chesterfield. You'll find Napoli everywhere. It's not too early to book a party and buy gift cards. Cafe Napoli.
This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.
Now, the end of the story behind the story.
There were days when we would come back and put the horses in the corral, get them out of the trailer, wash them down, clean them up. Then we'd go have supper. We didn't call it dinner. We had supper. And then after supper, we'd sit outside on the screen porch. Granddad would be smoking his pipe. Grandma would bring out 2 bowls filled with snap peas for us to snap and split the peas out of the green beans, basically. And then she would sit down with her big legs, spread out her apron, and put a bunch of them in hers. And that's what we would do, is sit there and do that. But my granddad, the man who could rope and do all of this stuff, every time he picked up a green snap pea and went to snap it and trying to get the pea out, he's throwing them everywhere. They're going all over the floor. They're not anywhere near the bowl that's sitting in his lap. And you just continue to do that. And I think, why can't you not do that? And grandmother went over one time. She'd say, Ab, just let me have it. I'll take it. So we'd hand her the bowl. And I'm sitting there like, my granddad can do so much, but he cannot handle green beans and put the pea out of it. I don't understand that. Now I'd look over at him. He'd be relighting his pipe, drawing a few puffs, and just leaning back and rocking. It took me a while to understand what was going on, but he was a wise old man. Thank you, Granddad, for the memories and everything else, you and Grandma. I hope it rekindled some memories for you and your grandparents, our parents, and things for you to share with your children, our grandchildren. The story behind the story tomorrow, based in Houston. Well, as a reporter, and I was going to do, quote, an undercover investigation of prostitution for high-end business people who would come into town. I got nailed as being maybe a pimp or maybe even a drug agent. You want to hear the rest of the story tomorrow. Remember our pledge, one nation under God.
You can hear podcasts of this program at Larry Connors USA Facebook. Larry Connors USA Facebook.
John Beal Roofing reminds you we are in the stormy season, and that means if you have even the smallest leak in your roof, you could soon have a much bigger issue. Call John Beal to make sure that your biggest investment is protected. That call can save you major dollars. If you do get hit during a storm, John Beal has a rapid response team. Call 1-800-NEW-ROOF. 1-800-NEW-ROOF. 1-800-NEW-ROOF, John Beal. You and I might have something in common, back pain. I can tell you where I go for help, Esquire Sports Medicine, the spine of St. Louis. They can put athletes back on the field so they can clearly help us. Esquire Sports Medicine, hands-on chiropractic help on Big Bend, just north of Highway 40. 314-644-0885. EsquireSportsMedicine.com. EsquireSportsMedicine.com. Great patio season to enjoy any of the Cafe Napoli locations. How about the Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta in Chesterfield? Enjoying coal-fired pizza, nothing else like it. Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta in Chesterfield. A few doors down, Lit Cigar Lounge, where you can enjoy premium cigars and whiskeys. Check the Lit Cigar Lounge Facebook for details, plus gift cards for friends. I'll see you at Lit Cigar Lounge in Chesterfield. It's that time of season when families, businesses are moving. For local or long distance, I endorse McGuire Moving. Get a date set soon before the schedules are booked. 314-241-0600. 241-0600. McGuire is constantly giving back to our veterans, such as support dogs for our brave. So with McGuire, you're getting excellent service and helping our vets. McGuireMoving.com. So many times, Vincent's Jewelers has helped me surprise someone special. Vincent's locally owned can do the same for you, and you don't have to break the bank to get something really nice, maybe even customized. The smile you're going to get back from that special someone, priceless. Check VincentsJewelers.com every day because new items are arriving and there are special deals. Vincent's, my only jeweler. VincentsJewelers.com. VincentsJewelers.com. Larry Connors here. Is your home ready for the chilly months ahead? Renewal by Andersen has a buy one, get one 50% off window event. And if you qualify, 18 months, no payments, zero interest. Not sure if it's the right time? Renewal makes it easy. No obligation window inspection. Just find out what new windows might cost when you're ready. No pressure, no hassle. And remember, no one but Renewal by Andersen can offer Fibrex, the proprietary window frame material, 200% stronger than vinyl. Means durability, efficiency, beauty that lasts every season. What are you waiting for? Call 877-WINDOWS or visit rbastl.com and get your consultation. Renewal by Andersen. Superior products. Exceptional service.
This is News Talk STL.
Answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.
On January 1st, I will be sworn in as the mayor of New York City. And that is because of you. So before I say anything else, I must say this. Thank you. Thank you to the next generation of New Yorkers who refused to accept that the promise of a better future was a relic of the past. You showed that when politics speaks to you without condescension, we can usher in a new era of leadership. We will fight for you because we are you.
Yep, he won. As I said earlier, New York City elected a mommy when they needed a daddy to straighten out that city and turn things around. I don't know where he stands right now and if he's really going to close Rikers Island as he had talked about. He made a lot of promises and statements that he said he would do, and he got a lot of support. And where did his support come from? Who voted for him? Who gave him those votes? I've got a guest coming up later, and we're going to get into that in more detail to understand not only demographic breakout of age, but also race. And I think inside that might also be religion. That'll be coming up later as we move forward. Because as you know, with Larry Connors USA, we're here 6 to 8, Monday through Friday. And when we're on the air, you're going to get news, analysis, opinion, and education. You're going to know more now at the end of this hour than you do right now. We make sure of it. In fact, we flood you with information. If you missed the first hour, it was loaded with information, specifically referenced Mondamni, the Sharia law, Muslim, and Islam, and understanding the difference, if there is any. And I had a caller that had left a voicemail that we played. And if you heard the phone call, you might agree with the caller or you might not. Everyone's entitled to their opinion. And I have the platform, but I try to make sure we get other opinions included as well. And I can't say the guy's wrong. He's talking about experience and his own experience. I see it a different way, but I have not had his experience. I have not walked in his shoes. That's what we try to understand on this program for everyone. But right now, Islamic advocates, I didn't say Muslim, Islamic advocates are gloating over the election of a Muslim immigrant to be the leader of New York City. We'll have more on his victory and who did vote for him coming up later. In the meantime, we're day 36 of the shutdown, and I don't see anything happening anytime soon. My brother sent me something today on a text message showing me some stuff he's getting ready for Thanksgiving. I'm supposed to go down there. I'm supposed to fly down there. I said, looks great. I can't wait. That is assuming planes will be flying. Sean Duffy, Department of Transportation.
The controllers got 90% of one payment, 80 to 90% of one payment. They missed the second paycheck. On Thursday, they get an email pay stub that'll show what their next payment is going to be. So this Thursday, they'll get an email that shows that their pay stub is a big fat zero. Many of the controllers said, a lot of us can navigate missing one paycheck. Not everybody, but a lot of us can. None of us can manage missing two paychecks. So if you bring us to a week from today, Democrats, you will see mass chaos. You will see mass flight delays, you'll see mass cancellations, and you may see us close certain parts of the airspace because we just cannot manage it because we don't have the air traffic controllers.
And you want to fly in safe skies, right? Have you been on a plane and you're anxious to go and you're waiting, and then they hear we're going to be delayed for a moment, we got to check something out? As a pilot, multi-engine, instrument, commercial rated, now by commercial, I'm not flying the jets, I'm talking about you could hire me for a flight and I could fly you and charge you for it. But don't get antsy and say, let's go. What could be wrong? I think I want to make sure they check out whatever the issue is before we take off. If they think they've got an issue of some type, well, let's resolve it on the ground. Sometimes it's something minor. But I do know, I've seen it, heard people complain, why are we being delayed? Why? Well, you know, I will get PO'd if we land and then don't have a spot open at the gate because we got there early, but we may just wait a little bit. But there are other times they just make us sit on the tarmac, and you know there are times that that's happened. But right now with the air controllers, some 8,000 of them have been apparently calling in sick, just not going to go to work. Twofold reason. One, no paycheck, and maybe they're out trying to earn some extra money. And two, they know how much the crush is on, especially as we head toward the holiday travel season. They do not want to be on the tower if something goes wrong. And the fewer controllers and the same number of flights, that raises that possibility. So the airlines will have to start reducing some flights. You may get to your location, but late you miss your connecting flight. That could happen as well. This shutdown, of course, is because Chuck Schumer is trying to hold everybody else hostage. Now, I said the other day, I think after yesterday's election, that they will go ahead and decide, all right, let's put an end to it. Let's put a bow on it and say, we won. Say it in whatever words you want. And when it came to the other elections across the nation yesterday, Republicans lost in every one of value that they wanted. Not just the New York City mayor's race. We're going to get into that a little bit more later this hour. And normally the party in power gets blamed for any shutdown. Well, it did not happen in 2013 because at that point we had a 16-day shutdown until Congress passed a stopgap spending bill. And guess who stepped forward then and said, this is not the way to run the country?
Earlier this week, the Republican House of Representatives chose to shut down a government they don't like over a health care law that they don't like. There's only one way out of this reckless and damaging shutdown. Pass a budget that funds our government, with no partisan strings attached. The Senate's already done this, and there are enough Republicans and Democratic votes in the House of Representatives willing to do the same and end this shutdown immediately. Unfortunately, the far right of the Republican Party won't let Speaker Boehner give that bill a yes or no vote. The American people don't get to demand ransom in exchange for doing their job. Neither does Congress. They don't get to hold our democracy or our economy hostage over a settled law. It's not how our democracy is supposed to work. That's why I won't pay a ransom in exchange for reopening the government. So my message is simple. Pass a budget. End this government shutdown. Pay our bills. Prevent an economic shutdown. These Americans and millions of others are counting on Congress to do the right thing. And I will do everything I can to make sure that they do.
Yeah, but about 1+ million got furloughed during that time, eventually getting paid. That was Obama saying we're not going to be held hostage and telling the Republican leadership, step up and put an end to this. I have not heard him say the same thing to Chuck Schumer right now. Our labor secretary says we have some issues and they're just going to continue to escalate.
The future of the American economy is on my shoulders, on this administration's shoulders, and the Democrats have stopped all the momentum that we have put in the last 9 months. Registered apprenticeships, the future workforce. Not only are we hurting the current workforce, it's the future workforce. We are trying to educate our young people. We're trying to register 1 million active apprentices across this country. We had almost 250,000 registered, and now that has come to a screeching halt. We're trying to educate our young Americans on AI, pilot approaches for workforce challenges in AI, the uncertainty. American workers deserve to know that they are going to have a job in this country, and the Democrats have chosen to play those political games. But many of our efforts have been stopped. 13 times they had an opportunity to say yes, just like I did, just like my colleagues have done. Enough is enough.
13 times. She sounded kind of like Obama about we need to get everything back to work, but who wants to take the blame or not? Labor Secretary Lori Chavez Demora also points out these folks we need to get back to work. We're hurting them in this process.
President Trump has done his job. Not only has he leveled the playing field with tariffs, not only has he welcomed great trade agreements, he has worked most recently with South Korea and Japan to bring hundreds of millions of dollars back to this country for the shipbuilding trades. I have been working around the clock to make sure that we can protect our national security for this country, and now that has also come to a stop. We are hurting American workers. We need to get them back to work. We need to grow this economy. We need to get their paychecks back in their hands so they can provide for their families, put gas in their cars, pay their mortgages, turn on their lights. I'm talking to all of you American workers out there. We're here for you. We're going to continue to fight through this shutdown, and I am begging these Democrats to show up, do their job, and open up this government. 35 days is far too long for the American people.
Yep, and
enough is enough.
And now we're day 36, moving to day 37 because nothing's going to happen the rest of this day. In the last hour, I had extensive information on the Muslims in our nation and around the world. It's a full breakdown. I'm going to give some of it to you again later in this hour, but if you can pull up the podcast if you missed it, I strongly encourage you to do it. The question is, do all Muslims follow Islam? I've often said not every Muslim is a jihadist, but every jihadist is a Muslim. The same thing about does every Christian actually follow Jesus or just claim they do? I am a Christian, but I'm a sinner, and I know I fall short. But I'm not trying to destroy and kill other people for my religion. At a security conference, a former FBI agent issued a warning.
The entire purpose of Islam, according to all Islamic doctrine, is to ensure that there is an Islamic state throughout the entire world called a caliphate, and under that, Sharia or Islamic law is the law of the land. That's it. Islam is no more complicated than that. Islam breaks the entire world into two parts. The Dar al-Islam, where Sharia is the law of the land, and the Dar al-Harb, the house or abode of war, where there is not Sharia as the law of the land. The function of Islam is to eliminate the Dar al-Harb until the entire world is a Dar al-Islam. And the vehicle to do that is called what? Jihad, which in 100% of all published Islamic law is only defined as warfare against non-Muslims.
Now, he is a former FBI agent, and he knows what he's speaking, but I do want to clarify a couple things. There are currently, to the latest estimates, 2 billion Muslims in the world, most of them in India. And not all Muslim nations follow Sharia law in its entirety. Several countries take different views. They're different than Iran and Afghanistan, even Saudi Arabia. Egypt and Jordan, they have Sharia as a primary source of law, but application largely limited to family and personal status matters. So even they are finding distinctions, but that's what he's pointing out. Those who believe firmly in the Sharia law and word for word and kill the infidel, they want the other Muslims executed as well. And we've seen that happening in Gaza as the Palestinians were killing Hamas members who were actually Palestinians. The FBI agent continues with his warning.
We're here talking national security issues. We have people here that are running for the office of President of the United States, and we have to begin there. And what I would put forth is that since, and actually prior to, but since 9/11, our entire national security apparatus has been unprofessional in its approach to this war, from the 4-star generals to the office of the president to the national security staff to the leaders of DHS when it was created, the FBI, the CIA, and other agencies. Because we have said this has nothing to do with Islam, despite the fact that our warfighting doctrine says when you analyze an enemy, you start with who he says he is and why he's fighting. And 100% of this enemy that we're facing, from the jihadi in Chattanooga to the 9/11 hijackers and everybody before and in between, have all said we're Muslims waging jihad in the cause of Allah in order to impose Islamic law and establish caliphate, period.
Period. And yet I do know, and that's what sparked the conversation that someone left on our voicemail overnight, which I played in the first hour. I have some Muslim friends, and they're not jihadist bent. They have love in their heart and trying to help others. I have some Christian friends who call themselves Christians. I leave it to you to make your own designation. But they hate people of a different color. To me, that's not very Christian-like. I mentioned earlier we have in this nation, in the world right now, 2 billion Muslims, 2 billion. We have 2.6 billion Christians. Where are most of the Muslims? Indonesia, the largest Muslim population in the world, followed by Pakistan, India, Bangladesh, and Nigeria. And the difference between Islam and Muslim, Islam is the religion, the way of life. Muslim is a follower of the faith, like Jesus Christ is being followed by those who are Christians. But again, there are distinctions within many of them. The meaning of Islam is submission to the will of God, as the meaning of Christian is a submission to Christ. A Muslim is a follower, a Muslim who follows the religion of Islam, as a Christian is one who follows Christianity in Christ the best we can. When you start labeling people with a broad stroke brush, you're really not only doing them a disservice, you're doing yourself a disservice, because you're not seeing they're not all alike. It's not monolithic in that case. But we do know this. The Muslim population of New York City, for the most part, appears to be absolutely celebrating that Mamdani won the New York City mayoral race. Who voted for him? My next guest coming up has some breakdown on some numbers I think you're going to want to hear. Very interesting. Lock and load. Ready on the right.
You are listening to Larry Connors, USA.
I want to tell you more about Wellington Environmental's dustless blasting services. Wellington can blast paint, grease, graffiti, even stripes off parking lots. Truly amazing and powerful. But can Wellington blast something more sensitive? Yes, Wellington can use dry ice to blast soot and odors off smoke-damaged surfaces right after a fire. Currently, Wellington uses dry ice to clean mold off wood inside a home. Why? Well, dry ice immediately disappears, turns into a vapor. That means no mess to clean up, no damaged surfaces. You need to check with Wellington, always researching and practicing with new, better, faster, safer equipment and products for you. And it's very easy to schedule an estimator for your next project. Call Cindy, 314-644-4930, 644-4930. Be well with Wellington. McGuire Moving is silver certified, which means they are great at relocating senior citizens. In fact, McGuire is a household name because McGuire understands the stress involved when moving older adults. So if you or family members need help moving, I highly recommend McGuire Moving. 314-241-0600. 241-0600. Get a free in-home estimate. McGuireMoving.com. So many times, Vincent's Jewelers has helped me surprise someone special. Vincent's locally owned can do the same for you, and you don't have to break the bank to get something really nice, maybe even customized. The smile you're going to get back from that special someone, priceless. Check Vincent'sJewelers.com every day because new items are arriving and there are special deals. Vincent's, my only jeweler. Vincent'sJewelers.com. Vincent'sJewelers.com. Back pain? Follow me to Esquire Sports Medicine, where they've got your back. Esquire is the oldest sports medicine clinic in St. Louis. Dr. Draghi and his team of chiropractors can get you back to work, back to life without the pain. New patients usually scheduled within 24 hours. 314-644-0885. 644-0885. EsquireSportsMedicine.com.
This is NewsTalkSTL.
Early in the evening, just about supper time. Over by the courthouse, it's hiding to unwind. Four kids on the corner, trying to bring him up. Willie picks the tune out and he throws it on the hub. Down on the corner, out in the street.
This is Larry Connors, USA. Larry Connors, USA.
The New York City mayoral election. More than 2 million New York voters cast ballots. That's the most in a mayoral race since 1969. Now, trying to understand what happened and who was voting for Mondami to become the new mommy of New York City, my guest, David Cancelo and Humberto Cancillo, I should say. Humberto is the father. They're a father-son conservative columnist, also authors of the book Gabriel Locke, Bound by Law. Humberto is with us. Humberto, welcome aboard, sir.
Well, how are you today, Larry?
Good. Now, I want to point out to the audience, you were born in Cuba in 1963, immigrated to the U.S. at age 6. Now, Mondami calls himself a Democrat socialist. Your view of with what's happened in Cuba and your view of the world now, is he, quote, socialist, communist, Marxist, what?
Well, I think he's whatever he wants to be at this point. I believe that he's a Marxist. I believe that he's a communist. Everything that he says is reminiscent of Castro. Everything's going to be great. Everything's going to be wonderful. We're all going to have a lot. And as can be seen by any time that things that Mondami has proposed have been tried, they don't work. In Cuba, you have government supermarkets, and people have to come with a little list of what they're allowed to buy because there's not enough to go around. And so they get whatever it is. It's not sufficient to eat, to survive. So there's a huge black market. And quite frankly, in a country that has soil that is 95% fertile. Think about that. 95% of the soil of Cuba is fertile, and yet they can't feed their people because of the system.
And the system does lock a lot of things down. You're listening to Humberto Cancillo. And what's your first impression? I mean, you had no doubt probably going into the final hours it was going to be Mondani, but what's your impression overall as to who was going to vote for him and who did vote for him?
Well, my impression was that people in New York are looking for solutions to affordability. And in that, the Marxist is correct, because they always have the ability to point to the major problems. Their problem is they have no ability to solve them because their system doesn't work. So what he does is he points to all these problems, and he's helped by the fact that I believe the Democratic Party didn't take him very seriously. And so they didn't put up anybody who offered solutions that were alternative to his.
Yeah, Cuomo was a flawed candidate. Cuomo was a flawed candidate from the beginning. Sliwa was running as a Republican. Cuomo never should have been in the race again, but the way the system worked, he could come back in. He even got Trump's endorsement at the end because a vote for Sliwa was basically a throwaway. But even if he'd gotten Sliwa's votes, it still would have been under the 50.4% Mondami got.
Yeah. And the problem is that, look, when people get desperate, they want someone that has concrete answers. And so the Marxists are very good at giving them concrete answers. Oh, you're having affordability problems? Not a problem. You know what? We're going to have supermarkets that are going to sell you the food under cost. We're going to have, a free bus system. We're going to have all kinds of things, free childcare. We're going to have, and when you add it all up, you say, well, who's going to pay for it? And then they turn around and say, well, the rich are going to pay for it, right? So very easy solutions, very quick. None of them work.
One of his proposals, since you mentioned the rich, he had imposed, we're going to put a 1% tax on the multimillionaires, and yet those, quote, 1% are paying basically 40% of the entire state's revenue source.
Right, which is why in Florida, which is where I am, we're expecting another flood of New Yorkers. I mean, being very honest. I mean, I talked to my son this morning, David, and he goes, Dad, I'm not going to be able to afford my rent when these people come down. Their prices is going to go sky high. I said, yeah, they are, because people who are nobody wants to pay what they shouldn't. It doesn't matter how rich you are. What's right is right. And so he's not offering solutions, but nobody else did. And that's the major problem. Nobody else offered solutions. They offered some platitudes. They offered some general programs that have been around for 30 years. But nobody said, you know what, you're right. How do we go about solving this? Let's do this. Let's do this, and let's do that. None of that. So Sorry.
I want to drill down to who actually did vote for him. And if you look at the precincts where it's mostly white residents, that'd be 895. He got 38%. Cuomo got 52%. No surprise there. Mostly Asian residents in 190 plus precincts. Mondani got 47 to Cuomo's 43%. Mostly black residents, that'd be about 480 precincts. Mondani got 60 plus percent, Cuomo 35, and Hispanic Same kind of thing. High numbers for Hispanic from Mondami, 57%. And yet we had a lot of young white women who were voting for him. Why?
Well, here is a curious thing. When Castro took over, he was not supported by the poor sections of society. He was supported by the middle class, because it's the kids in the middle class that actually drink the Kool-Aid, because they've never been through a hard life. When you have someone who's been through a hard life, they're very skeptical. And they look at it and they go, well, yeah, you're giving me this, you give me that. Where's that coming from? Because they've never gotten anything for free, and they don't believe it. But middle class kids have gotten all for free. Parents paid their education. They're going to nice colleges. They live comfortably, so they assume that it can continue.
You're kind of echoing what Lee Hartley Carter, an opinionist for Fox News, wrote, that the Mondani victory reveals middle-class frustration with broken promises, not really an embrace of the far-left ideology. But giving him this platform, what is that going to do to the city and those who really need more help?
Well, they're not going to get it.
But he promised they would. Umberto, he promised they would.
You know what? It's funny. I remember, and if you've ever read through Castro's speech, they're a nightmare. But I remember that I saw a clip of a speech once where he got up and he said, and next year we're going to produce 6 million eggs. And you think about it, you go, wow, 6 million eggs. Then you realize that at that time, Cuba had 6 million people. That's one egg a year.
So that's the point. Go ahead.
They dress it up really well. They give it with emphasis. They smile, and it's all, not real.
It's an empty suit to that extent. The other part of the columnist from Fox had wrote that very exact. I mean, it's like you're repeating exactly what she's got in here, and I know you know it from experience as well. Pointing out there's a growing class of New Yorkers who don't fit our usual political categories, not the working poor or the wealthy elite, somewhere in between, as you mentioned. They've done everything right, schools, hours, hustle. They still feel stuck, rents climbing faster, taxes eating away paychecks. They're not broke, they're just burned out, and they think, I'm frustrated.
Yeah, because really the solution, the answer is that we're going through a transition. For many, many years, the United States has been a paper-pushing society. We push paper from here to there. We don't produce anything. We import most everything and only import some of the knowledge that we have, and we get paid for it, and China quickly steals it. So that's what we've been. This administration is trying to change our economy and say, okay, wait a minute, we have to start producing things or else we're going to be lost. And so they're coming with the AI and all of these jobs that are going to come down the line, but it's going to take some time. Yes, the price of oil has gone down, the price of gasoline has gone down, but if you're a New Yorker that takes the subway, that really doesn't affect you, right?
Yep.
So, they haven't been helped.
Yeah.
And so they're looking for solutions. Young kids can't afford to sustain themselves.
And they buy into the pie in the sky. Let me give you the last 15 seconds for a summation for you. Go ahead.
Well, I just think that I think that the Democrats are going to play it a different way. They're going to shut him out. He's not going to win anything in the city commission, and the rest is controlled by the state. So, yeah, he's going to get elected, but he's going to be controlled if they're smart. And if they're further smart, they will use him as an example why the far left and their answers don't work. And then the less left part of the party can once again regain control.
Umberto,
that's what I would do.
You got it. Umberto Concillo, conservative columnist, the book Gabriel Locke, I should say, Gabriel Locke, Beyond the Law.
You can connect with Larry on Twitter at Larry Connors USA.
We welcome Tom Shaw Realtors, selling, buying, leasing property all over Missouri, almost 100 years. Call Tom, 314-283-5064, shawrealtors.com. Hey, looking for windows that solve your problems and actually add value to your home? Renewal by Anderson. Anderson products increase your home value by at least 15%. Right now, get $329 off every window, $729 off every patio or entry door, and ask about our zero interest plan for 3 years. Renewal by Anderson, the full-service replacement division of Anderson. That's a name you've trusted for more than 122 years. Renewal by Anderson has FiberX frames, 20% stronger than vinyl, built to last. It's why we have more 5-star reviews than anyone in St. Louis. And only Renewal by Anderson backs it up with the nation's best warranty. Schedule your complimentary consultation, rbastl.com, or call 877-WINDOWS, 877-WINDOWS. Renewal by Anderson, superior products, exceptional service. I just checked the events planned at Lit Cigar Lounge, so I'm planning a lot of time there. Top-of-the-line cigars, premium whiskey. Check out litstl.com and join me. Hey, and if we get hungry, Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta, just a few doors down. We can order from the menu, be at our table within minutes. Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta in Chesterfield Valley and Lit Cigar Lounge, litstl.com.
This is News Talk STL. This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.
The future is in our hands. My friends, we have toppled a political dynasty. I wish Andrew Cuomo only the best in private life. But let tonight be the final time I utter his name. As we turn the page on a politics that abandons the many and answers only to the few. New York, tonight you have delivered a mandate for change.
That is Mondami last night accepting the vote of the New Yorkers, and he will be sworn in January 1 as the new New York City mayor. Mommy will take over the city. I still say we need a daddy to get in there to straighten it out. He has been anti-police. He's tried to cool it a little bit on the closing days, trying not to talk too much about crime and punishment or law and justice. That would mean safety of U.S. citizens. He's been pushing all the freebies he can. You won't have to pay to ride the city buses. That means a lot of the homeless are probably just going to camp out on the bus right around town. Why not? Be nice and warm, whatever. Talking about closing Rikers Island, which has 7,000 to 8,000 inmates. Where are you going to put them? You're going to defund police? Yeah, you talked about that before. That's, again, not going to make things safe for New York City. And I'm not talking about just the residents. I'm talking about all the tourism they rely on. It's going to be a dramatic fall off. And I'm thinking that even in the first 6 months or less, we'll have a good idea. This was a bad decision. Too late now, buddy. And then, of course, as we were talking about with Umberto Consejo and the book again, I bundled the title again at the end. I want to make sure you get it right. He and his son are co-authors of this book, Gabriel Locke, Bound by Law. But Umberto and his son, they're very conservative columnists, and he was born in Cuba. He knows they went the wrong direction last night, mainly because a lot of those voting for him are young, idealistic people who have no idea. They've never really worked. They're very much like an AOC barista who suddenly found herself in Congress. Mondani was basically never had a real job, worked for his mama. That's it. Then he got elected assemblyman to New York, and now suddenly he's a mayor. Charismatic, smiling, but a true empty suit. But he's not going to be suffering. The rest of New Yorkers will. And those who rely on people coming in and travel and visiting the restaurants and spending money like that, they're going to be seeing some massive issues. And the housing is going to get worse. And the homeless situation will get worse. And already, as we pointed out over the last couple of days, billions of money have been moved out of New York City and New York State into places like Florida and or Texas. Citizens getting out of there. J.P. Morgan, the #1 banking institution in the nation, has more employees in Texas than it does in New York. So much for being the center of the universe when it comes to finances. Yeah, they still got the bull out there in front of the stock exchange, but I think it's been castrated. I mentioned earlier this opinion piece written by Lee Hartley Carter. I think she did a great job with it for Fox News. And she said it looks like, based on him winning, that the far left is taking over, but that is not what happened. She said Mondani did not win because New York suddenly fell in love with socialism. He won because he captured something every politician should be listening to right now, a deep frustration the system doesn't feel fair anymore. Well, hell, every Trump supporter, MAGA supporter, they feel that has not been fair. It was a blue state, a blue city. It was not going to go to Sleewa to begin with. And the only recycled candidate they could offer up was Cuomo, and he had already been turned off so many ways because of COVID. How many people died in the nursing homes? And he sentenced them to go die in the nursing home. Then he tried to cover it up. Even his own brother, Chris Cuomo, when he was with CNN. Now one of the other cable outlets says that my brother never had a chance. You're darn right he didn't have a chance. The opinion piece from Fox News points out many of these folks, they're not broke, they're just burned out. Rents are climbing faster than their salaries, taxes eating away their paychecks, buying a home feels impossible, and they supposedly have stopped believing that hard work will lead to stability, let alone success. She quotes one of her colleagues that says, "This is rich vigilantes of fairness." And she says they don't want handouts, they want honesty. They don't trust the system, but they're still trying to make it work. And Mondani saw them before anyone else did. He didn't talk like a career politician. He sounded like someone who actually understood their frustration. But he did not. Again, it was a lie. He has never held a job. And when he talks about this is going to be for all those who deliver meals on bicycles and work with their hands and do things, he's never done any of that. I venture to say AOC has more legitimate work experience than Mondani. And a lot of the stuff he promised he cannot deliver. It's all controlled by Albany, the state of New York, when it comes to funding for the transportation system. If he's going to say you're not going to be charged a fare anymore. I don't know how that's going to work out in the end, but a lot of folks are going to say, no, he said we could get on free. We're getting on free. All they point out here, it's not just guilt, it's exhaustion. Donald Trump says there are a couple reasons why the Republicans had such a bad day, not just in New York, but in other states that they wanted to win. New York City, obviously, Virginia, New Jersey, California, and elsewhere where they had issues that they wanted to win. He said, I think if you read the pollsters, the shutdown was a big factor. Negative for the Republicans, that was big time. And Trump added, they say I wasn't on the ballot and was the biggest factor, but I don't know that. I'm honored they said that. And he did say, I don't think it was good for Republicans. I don't think it's good. I'm not sure it's good for anybody. They lose a mayoral race in New York City. Democrats also securing another expected win in California, a new congressional map that will help them win 5 more U.S. House seats in the next midterm election. Other states, red states, are doing everything they can to get in place to counter that. Vivek Ramaswamy, one-time presidential candidate, and who had worked on the Doge team briefly. When it came to the Democrat victories in New York City, Virginia, New Jersey, California, Vivek Ramaswamy said, we got our arses handed to us. I think he dropped the R, but you got the idea. He's running for Ohio governor now, and he said there are 2 key lessons for Republicans to take away from what happened yesterday. We got our arses handed to us in New Jersey, Virginia, and New York City. Democrats swept all 3. That's 2 key reasons for Republicans. Listen carefully, he added. Our side needs to focus on an affordability, making the American dream affordable, bring down cost, electric cost, grocery cost, health care cost, housing cost. That's how we're going to do it. Well, again, that's talking to the wind or the choir. I know that, but how are you going to do it? He said, number 2, cut out the identity politics. It does not suit Republicans. It's not for us. That is the woke's left game, not ours. And he said, we don't care about the color of your skin or your religion. We care about the content of your character. That's who we are. Quote Vivek Ramaswamy. And he's absolutely right. But the other thing that is absolutely unsettling to me, really, in Virginia, Democrat Jay Jones unseats a Republican incumbent attorney general. And it was just days ago that Jay Jones was having to apologize for text messages he sent a colleague a couple of years ago in which he fantasized about putting 2 bullets in the head of a Republican opponent. And also sent messages voicing that he believed the Republicans' fascist children should die. And in New Jersey, the new governor-elect Cheryl, caught up in a controversy over her alleged role in a massive cheating scandal during her time at the U.S. Naval Academy. Not accused of cheating, but she was kept from participating in her commencement because she refused to divulge information on those involved. The honor code, she did not honor it. These are the kind of folks that are taking office. They lie, they cheat, they they threaten to kill. I played for you the other day the Helena, Montana councilwoman who basically was blasting a Republican candidate for another office and saying, basically, I hope you get cancer. I hope you get pancreatic cancer and die an agonizing death. And she felt so sure of herself and that she would go unchallenged, she left it on a voicemail. We cannot have this. But I don't see the left stepping up to quiet them down and shut them down. They need to do that. Or we're going to have more Charlie Kirks, only it's going to be someone else. And it could be Mondani tomorrow. Because there will be some on the right that are thinking, well, if this is the way the game's going to play, I'm loading up and I'm going after them. Do not do that. Do not do that. Do not step into that arena. But be aware of what is happening and protect yourself and your family every step of the way. If you don't feel comfortable around guns, I'm not telling you go get one. But I do say you need to be more aware, because some of these folks that are out there right now, they are absolutely unhinged. And a victory like they got out in New York City yesterday, basically they look at it as a permission slip to do whatever we want. Larry, you're exaggerating. You think? You think? Does Mondani have any idea, any clue whatsoever on how to govern or just how to hand out gift bags? From the Heritage Foundation, economist Steve Moore.
Exodus. This is the big story in America today, Larry. It's very simple. The blue states, especially those blue states with high taxes, what am I talking about? New York, New Jersey, California, Illinois, are being bled to death. And where are they going, Larry? You know exactly where they're going. They're going to where our buddy, our laugher is. They're going to Tennessee. They're going to Texas. They're going to Florida. Gee, what do those states have in common? Oh, they don't have any income tax at all. So you pay 14% in New York, or you can pay 0 in Miami, or 0 in Dallas, where I am right now. And I'm telling you, if Mondani wins this election and he raises that tax rate another by 2 or 3 percentage points, I believe that the exodus of people who make 6, 7, 8 figures is going to be out of the city. And then, Larry, who's going to pay the bills?
Yeah. He was talking to Larry Kudlow, not Larry Connors. And he was talking about, of course, before the election results were in, if he wins. Well, now we know he's won. But the question is still there. Who's going to pay the bills? This is back to Margaret Thatcher. She said socialism always works till the other people run out of money. The course is laid before us. There are going to be very choppy waters going forward. You need to avoid hitting an iceberg. You need to avoid swamping, and you need to avoid simply not surviving. Escape from New York is underway. And when they come into your state, do not bring your blue baggage luggage with you. Remember our pledge: one nation under God.